In the morning, Getting Those Slaves. This is Dave Selvin from Nashville, Tennessee. In a recent No Agenda podcast, Adam mentioned the great meetup that we had, and we sure did. He also mentioned the tinfoil hats that we made. I wanted to show you just how easy it is to make tinfoil hats. You need one ingredient, tinfoil. Take about, I don't know.
Probably the greatest at making fun of conspiracy theorists is a dude named Lionel Nation, who, in my opinion, he's the best at pointing out what conspiracy theorists look like. And not just conspiracy theorists, but the knowledgeable in general. And it's not only his comedy by way of sarcasm, but it's also how he'll often include himself in it. He does a lot of these. A few years ago, I posted a clip from one of them on my other channel. But he did one recently that stuck out from among the rest.
Because so contaminated are the sheeple, so contaminated are Americans, and nothing is going to be done. And you can watch all the TV shows you want, and you can watch all the whatever you want. Nothing is going to be done as long as these people exist. They love it, and the shadow government knows that. Nothing is getting better. Let me try this again. Let me say it again. We are doomed. And the only thing that's going to happen is maybe our jailers get tired of it. Because there is nothing. Let me say this again. I don't know how to tell you this. I don't know how you, because you get your little feelings hurt when I tell you this. There is no resistance. Do you hear what I'm saying? They'd like you to believe that. Well, I don't know about you, but I got a great podcast. Screw the podcast. Sorry. Well, I don't know, but the other night I watched on Newsmax. Screw Newsmax and Fox News and whatever you read, Breitbart. That's not it. That's like having, in a concentration camp, in a prisoner of war camp, having a camp newspaper. Boy, did you read about, Jerry sure wrote a hell of a column about the food and the sanitary. We're in prison. What are you doing? Yeah, but there's a newspaper here. Did you read it? He nailed it. He slashed them, threshed them, laced into them. That's where we are right now. Well, did you hear the good news? They've elected a prison camp grievance committee among the prisoners themselves. They have no power, but I talked to our representatives, and I read. We even have, by the way, in our camp, we're going to have our own podcast. We're not getting out, but we've got a podcast and I'm including me. I'm telling you the same thing, me. I'm great. I can tell you stuff you've never even thought about before. Believe me, I did a new one last night. I'm still into this. The role of AI. You know how they're going to defund the police? Robots. Remember the story about the robot? Do you remember the story about that dog? They had the little robot dog, Boston Dynamics, whatever it was, in New York. They sent this robot dog in. That's how they defund the police. The robots. It's perfect. It's coming. Oh. But you love him because he says so much. It's like you're going to vote for this guy in the prison camp because he's a great speaker. And meanwhile, we're not getting out of prison. Nobody's listening to this. But there's an illusion that there's some kind of a representative democracy here. And that's where we are right now. You know, they've wised up. Yeah, you think that? Yeah, they've wised up. They haven't wised up. No, they haven't. They're loving this like you cannot believe. And you know what we do? We pretend like we're in charge. Oh, we're so good at that. We do this stuff. We say, well, it's the Federal Reserve. Okay, great. Well, who's going to do this? Well, I read this article. Nothing. There's no control here. We're in the prisoner of war camp, and we have a little radio station, and we're talking, and we have a newspaper, and we have a little tribunal, and we present our complaints to the warden, and the commandant, Doesn't matter. But you think this means something. You think this means something. Because we're in a prison. I can't tell you this enough. You don't understand it. You're still thinking. I see what you're saying. You're right. You don't get it. You just love the retort. You just love to say, well, Obama did that. Well, that's a Federal Reserve. No, you don't understand it. You're in the prison and you're coming up with a wisecrack. Nobody cares what you say. You don't understand this. We're not, well, I just want to tell you. No, because nobody's asking you to see if you can come up with some pithy remark about, I don't know, well, Hillary Clinton, nobody cares about that. And it's just a matter of them getting tired. That's all.
Hilarious. I'll get back to Lionel later, maybe towards the end. But I saw something that the Tree of Logic put out today. It'll be in the description box. And what I saw today made me want to get on here and speak on what I saw a week ago. Now, I saw it a week ago, and I didn't pay it much mind until I saw Tree put out what she put out. And it's not exactly what I want to get after today, but it's along the same lines. And so far, I've only taken a few pot shots at the critical race theory thing, and I'll take a few more pot shots today. That's what I'll do. Not really going into depth about it. I've told you that the critical race theory is just another means to start another war, or to add fuel to the existing war that's been going on. But the proponents of the critical race theory thing are saying that the curriculum is just to educate the people on the history of the United States. That's a lie. Its real purpose is to demonize white people and their children and to teach them that they've been the evil upon the earth. I told people that I can read the spirit of the proponents of the critical race theory, and it is the spirit of revenge. See, sometimes you can gauge what something is according to who's backing it. Like the men on here who I had known for years, then all of a sudden was backing Donald Trump. Never seen them co-sign a president before. These are men who have great disdain for black women. Men who say that women need to be cut off welfare and put out in the street. A lot of these men are also men who believe that a certain portion of black people need to be exterminated. So what did that say about what Trump must have represented to them? Or like when people are running for office, you can follow the money. Who's funding them? And there, you can know what that person's true intentions are. Sometimes. Like they did with Black Lives Matter. Tracked down George Soros and found out that he was the bag behind the organization. Found out that he's been financing wars for decades, similar to what we've been seeing from Black Lives Matter. Now, you can't always guilt by association, because we all know that sometimes knuckleheads will attach themselves to something good and either purposely stain that thing or stain it on accident just because they're knuckleheads. Like a person wearing one of these will go out and blow themselves up along with a school bus full of women and children. Then all Muslims and Islam itself are looked at as terrorists. But sometimes you can guilt, according to the ones waving the banner. Sometimes you can. Ibram Kendi, proponent of the critical race theory, he looks as if he's like a poster child for this curriculum. News outlets and others seek him out for interviews and speeches to explain his race war that they call the critical race theory. A week ago, Senator Josh Hawley was talking about Kendi and someone like him who supports this critical race theory. And Josh read something from page 2 of Kendi's book titled How to Be an Anti-Racist.
They pit whiteness and blackness against each other in a manner that reduces every American, no matter their character or their creed, to their racial identity alone. One of these critics, Dr. Ibram Kendi, wrote this: "The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination." That's right. That's what he said. Think about that for a moment.
Discriminate against the ones that's been discriminating. Like I said, the critical race theory is not to give an accurate account of history. Its purpose is to target white people. Go see him live on Triologic's channel. I said it about a month ago, and just now, that it's to start another war, or they introduce a new faction into the long-standing war that's been going on. How to be an anti-racist is to be racist too, he figures.
You'll never learn.
About 2 weeks ago, this was from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And what I say.
It's an honor to be here. We want to be known as the #1 state for civic literacy in the nation. And today we're going to sign 3 bills that address key pillars of our civic literacy efforts. It's crucial to ensure that we teach our students how to be responsible citizens. They need to have a good working knowledge of American history, American government, and the principles that underlie our Constitution and Bill of Rights. And these efforts are needed. So today we have 3 bills. The first bill I'll sign is House Bill 5. It does a number of really important things. One, it has the Department of Education. It tasks them with developing and approving an integrated civics curriculum. It's very important that students graduate high school with a key knowledge of certain key principles and facts. And I think that civics curriculum can really provide a guide to how that should be done. The bill also expands our previous efforts in civics to add a requirement for the high school government class that students receive instruction on the evils of communism and totalitarian ideologies. We have a number of people in Florida, particularly southern Florida, who've escaped totalitarian regimes, who've escaped communist dictatorships to be able to come to America. We want all students to understand the difference. Why would somebody flee across shark-infested waters, say leaving from Cuba to come to southern Florida? Why would somebody leave a place like Vietnam? Why would people leave these countries and risk their life to be able to come here? It's important that students understand that. Now, as part of this bill, Florida will create a Portraits in Patriotism library so students can learn about real patriots who came to this country after seeing the horrors of these communist regimes. We actually have folks here today. You'll hear from her in a minute, Anna Abauza. She came to the United States when she was a teenager, fleeing from Nicaragua when the Sandinistas brought socialism to that country. She graduated from the University of Florida, met a Venezuelan, and moved to Venezuela. Well, she had a great life there for a time, and then you had another socialist dictatorship take over and destroy her other country. I'm also going to be signing Senate Bill 1108. The bill bridges civics education between our high schools and post-secondary institutions by requiring state college and state university students to take both a civic literacy course and a civic literacy assessment as a graduation requirement. Currently, students are only required to do one. The bill further requires high school students to take a civic literacy assessment. Doesn't have high state consequences, but if you pass the test, you're exempted from the post-secondary test requirement. The bill also expands character development curriculum for high school juniors and seniors and includes instructions on how to vote. Finally, I'm signing House Bill 233. The bill requires colleges and universities to conduct annual assessments on the intellectual freedom and viewpoint diversity at these institutions. It used to be thought that a university campus was a place where you'd be exposed to a lot of different ideas. Unfortunately, now the norm is really these are more intellectually repressive environments. You have orthodoxies that are promoted and other viewpoints are shunned or even suppressed. We don't want that in Florida. You need to have a true contest of ideas. Students should not be shielded from ideas, and we want robust First Amendment speech on our college and university campuses. And I think that having intellectual diversity is something that's very, very important as we go forward. And I know a lot of parents, one of the things they worry about if you send a kid to a university, are they just going to basically be indoctrinated? Are they actually going to be taught to think for themselves, challenge assumptions, and really be critical thinkers and learners? We obviously want our universities to be focused on critical thinking, academic rigor. We do not want them as basically hotbeds for stale ideology. That's not worth tax dollars, and that's not something that we're going to be supporting going forward. So these bills build off a lot of the work we've done since I took office. When I took office, we signed an executive order eliminating Common Core and establishing a series of objectives for the DOE to deliver high-quality standards and instruction in Florida schools, including civics education. And the legislature subsequently approved House Bill 807 in 2019. In 2020, Florida became the first state in the nation to adopt a kindergarten through grade 12 civic literacy book list in its English language arts standards. And 2 weeks ago, at my direction, the State Board of Education took action to stop critical race theory and the 1619 Project curriculum from being a part of our school system. We do not want curriculum that is judging students based on their race, and we do not want false history like you see with the 1619 Project. So in less than 1 month, the State Board of Education will adopt new kindergarten through grade 12 civics education standards. So we're excited to be here.
What'd I say? See, sometimes the problem is not the problem. A lot of times the problem are the problem solvers. People designated to fix things but will only go on to make things worse. A tit for tat. Gonna learn about the evils of communism, the governor said. And don't doubt that curriculum will be adopted by more red states. An eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. We just don't learn. Look at the Asian hate bill and what people's responses have been. Oh, you want a hate crime bill against us? Tell you what, we want one against you now. Black people are not the only ones asking for their own personalized hate crime legislation. Hate crime bills against everybody. What Lionel be saying is, what do we really know when we find out things? And what good was it to have found out when we still remain at ground zero in our thinking? And even digging a deeper hole for ourselves.
You'll never learn.